Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Prejean. I am the host of the Network Podcast. I'm bringing somebody back today because it's time for us to reset the room. But before we do that, I need y'all to remember that the network is our attempt at creating a modern podcast version of the Negro Motorist Green Book. Every episode is designed to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially as you travel in and through America. So I'm going to have today's guest introduce herself to you. I'm going to ask her a series of questions and she's going to answer us. So please tell us your government name.
My government name is Jakeithia Prejean.
And you were born where?
I was born in the great city of Lafayette, Louisiana.
I don't know if there's any other place to be born.
Come
You are
on.
a child of,
Judy and Allen.
okay, you are a graduate of,
The Grambling State University and Grand Canyon University.
what about before Grambling?
I am the proud graduate of Northside High School class of 1995.
All right, had to give you the chance to represent the North Side.
Thank you, sir.
When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
Yes, can you believe it?
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Okay.
All right, now, and then before we dive into the rest of it, any shout outs you want to give before we crank this thing up?
I want to give a shout out to everybody who's been persevering during this pandemic, who has had so many new challenges that have been thrown at them, but that you still keep going and you're living it up. You know, you may not be in the best shape, but you don't give up and you're still pushing. So shout out to all of us.
Good, good. All right, so you said you wanted to give a shout out to all the people who have been struggling through this pandemic. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, for those of you listening or watching on YouTube today, you can go back to season one to catch Jakeithia on her initial episode. Matter of fact, it was around this time last year.
Was it? I was trying to
Um,
remember. Okay.
yeah, it was about this time last year when you came on. So we're bringing you back. So I reached out to you a couple weeks back. I just had something in my spirit that was like, you know what, we need to talk about this reset because it seems like some people are struggling with where we are. So it seems like maybe we need some revival. People need some revival in their lives. So first, tell us what the reset is, and then tell us where we are in the reset. Are we at the beginning, the middle? Are we close to the end of the reset? So I'm going to give you the floor. The floor is yours. I need you to break this thing down for us and then tell us where we need to go from here.
So as far as the reset, what is the reset? The reset is reevaluating everything so everything thrives. So, my everything is not your everything. And it's not about having necessarily a balance of things, but putting things into proper perspective, what I call priorities. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
the reset where we're looking at our priorities. I think that this reset has kind of kicked us out of quote unquote balance or out of quote unquote habit. And
Okay.
it's not always a bad thing. It's a good thing because I feel like before, this pandemic and this journey of the reset, like, there was just some things that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing and a mindset that I had that I shouldn't have had and a mindset about things that I should have, but then now I've grown. So this reset, it's two resets. And I say two because it's a personal reset, but then it's a world reset because
Okay.
things in the world aren't the same. Things in the world won't ever be the same. Things in our lives won't ever be the same. And I think that we tend to look at those things negatively, but without a reset, we can't grow.
Does
And
it, let me ask, are you encountering people or mindsets who are waiting for things to just kind of go back to where they used to be?
oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm an educator, and I've even found myself, trying to get things to go back to where it was, because everybody likes the familiar. Everybody likes to be comfortable. Um,
Right. Right.
Nobody likes change, really. Not really.
Right.
We're
Right.
creatures of habit. We're creatures of habit. So that's where I feel like we are. We have people who want to go back, and the reality is, it's not. Even the world is different. We're in transition. I believe we're kind of like right smack dab in the middle,
Okay.
of the reset. We're not quite, where we supposed to be, or where we're going to be, should I say. And we're definitely not where we were, but we're right in the middle. We're still trying to adjust, but not quite accepted what will be, if that makes sense.
Okay. Say that again one more time.
So we're not where we were before. Absolutely. We're
Mm-hmm.
right in the middle. So, but we're not quite where we need to be, or where we should be, where we're actually going. And when I say that, it's
Okay.
because the world is changing. So the world and the environment that we live in, we have to adjust, because it's a vital part of our everyday lives, our jobs, our careers, where we buy groceries, where we go, to ballpark and to the restaurants and the grocery store and all those things. So we're not quite there. We're still adjusting, and so we're not quite there.
Okay. So the reset has put us out of balance. So what are some markers of being out of balance? So I'm looking at my life. I'm reevaluating everything. What are some things that may just kind of stick out? What are some markers that will let me know that, hey, right now I'm out of balance, so that I can actually put a label to, oh, this is what this is. I'm out of balance. I'm in the middle of a reset. What are some things that I may see going on in my life and going on around me?
We all walking around with a mask.
Okay. Well, not Texas. I live in Texas,
Well, in
so
Louisiana, some of us, uh,
masks have been optional.
mask has been optional. We have the opportunity, um, to, and it's kind of it's not really a broad statement, because I find that reset has to be super personal and super intentional. So I could talk
Okay.
about myself. Everybody that I know, or a lot of people that I know, including myself, has gotten COVID,
Okay.
right? And so, it just does something to you. It's different. Um, you see a lot of death that I haven't seen before, or maybe we're just paying more attention to it because of
Hmm.
COVID.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's a marker, which entails brings grief. And so we're seeing people grieving in all types
Yeah.
of different ways, right? Because
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
there are, markers of grief. There's denial. There's all those different things. I can't remember all of them, but I'll say it in just a couple of minutes. So we see all
Yeah.
this grief. So we see people grieving. We see, you know, uh, that's a marker for sure. As an
Yeah.
educator, so yeah, like steps of grief, stages: denial, bargaining, anger, depression, acceptance. And they come in no specific order. So that's definitely a marker. And grief doesn't necessarily just mean death. Grief just means loss. So
Yeah.
loss of
Straight.
how it used to be, loss of how that I'm out of balance. So the loss of how it used to be. That's grief. That's everybody. Loss of how I didn't have to wear a mask, loss of how, you know, I can just go to the grocery store and buy anything I want. Like, I don't know about y'all, these some of these shelves are empty.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely a shortage. There's a more greater shortage coming. Production is not like it used to be, and we've
Hmm.
seen that for a while. But I'm seeing it like even it's getting worse, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
just I think a marker is definitely one of those things that we can park as grief, because we're all.
And the crazy thing is, um, and this is why this conversation is needed, because right before we jumped on and started recording, I had reached out to somebody to come on and talk about grief.
Wow.
And I sent the follow up email. I was like, "Hey, I'm following up. I need you to come on here and talk about grief." And in the phone call that she and I had previously, when we previous, she just touched on like two or three little basic things that I had never considered when it comes to grief. And it was just it basically dealt with what you're saying with loss, but she was just kind of mentioning how we have moved from our foundation. We've been removed from our foundations, whatever they are, you know? So this is how I know that this conversation is needed because you mentioned that, and that's a confirmation that we got to have
Right.
this conversation about grief.
And,
So, Charnel Jackson,
okay, I'll be looking for it. I said,
if
now I'm
you're
not a
listening or
counselor.
watching,
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
a licensed counselor, but I just, I've have friends who are, and we've had these kind of conversations. It could be the
yeah,
loss of a friendship, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a normalcy of picking up and going to church every Sunday, and now you got to watch online for whatever
yeah,
reason. Loss of how you used to go into the office every day, and now you're working from home. The loss of having to catch your kids up from being out of school last year or online last year, and now they're struggling. The loss of, I go in my classroom and I'm looking at the kids like, man, I see the learning loss.
yeah.
um, there's a gap there. So it's just everything's out of whack, but it's not a bad.
Everything.
Everything's out of whack. I think back like this year, I've had serious family issues. I've had a very close friend die of cancer. I had COVID. It just changes your life. I had a student who was murdered by a former student. I've
Wow.
yeah, my best friend's father died. And so she's always the person I lean on. So now you gotta lean on me. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that type of thing. It's just like, whoa. I've lost friendships as people, stop talking to me, and I don't even know why. So you're just dealing with loss on all types of levels. And that's just, I share that so people can know that I'm not just running my mouth, that it's real.
It's
You know,
real. It's
it's
real.
real.
Yeah.
And I'm
It
sure
is
people
real.
have gone through way worse than what I'm saying. But I just feel like you have to be transparent, open books to reach people and connect to people, let them know that, hey, this is what I dealt with. And
No, I
what
agree.
you've dealt with is no less or no more. It's just we all have our own battles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And that's a loss. And
Yeah.
I'm also seeing all of the things you mentioned, friendships, people, jobs, the loss of normalcy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just the loss of normalcy in itself is a cause for grief.
Right.
And you mentioned that we're in the middle. We are in the middle of this reset, and this reset it's super personal. You say it,
Yes.
and it's super intentional. So
Absolutely.
now that we've given some examples that I know people are experiencing in their lives right now, we're in the middle. We know it's a reset. Now we've recognized some of those things we're dealing with personally. How can we be super intentional? How do we pick up the pieces and move on? And you were saying that this is not a bad thing. So I'm gonna ask you to just pick up from there,
Okay.
please.
And so when I say it's super personal, what I
Hmm.
mean by that is that everybody has their own journey of reset. My reset won't look like your reset, cousin. You know, families are going through resets. It's
Yeah.
just it's different. So when I say super personal, then we tend to kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Hmm.
And so with that, that's where the super intentional have to come in, and that's where the priorities got to kick back in. Because what was once a priority before, in the normal part of what was before, definitely is not a priority
All
Now
right, that's
it's
so good.
different. It's so different.
That's rich. That is rich.
And that's
Oh
fresh
man, that's
off the
rich.
top of my brain because I promise I have not seen this before.
That's rich. That listen, that's good. I needed to
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah.
I needed to hear that.
And,
So yeah, that's good. Keep going.
and I think that once we understand that, then it's not as quote unquote hard, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm
Mm-hmm.
believer of it's all about perspective. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about how you
Mm-hmm.
see it, right? So let me just give an example. I think about a friendship I had, right? And when you start thinking about, man, you just cut me off for no reason, right? But then when I start thinking about it, I was like, hold up, I was supposed to cut you off. Let me not say that. I was supposed to because I don't like to say cut people off because if that person called me right now, hey, I'm
You're
here,
gonna be
I'm
there
all
for them.
ears, I'm there. But
Yeah.
our relationship was supposed to shift before, and it did for a
Mm-hmm.
while, and then it kind of came back to where it was. And I feel like this: people are in your life for seasons, and some people are in your life for a reason, and some people are like in your life forever. And it's not a bad thing. And they needed you, you needed them. So when I
Mm-hmm.
look at the perspective, like our friendship was supposed to shift, and so okay, so you just kind of did what I had started to do before, but now you did it. And I realize I try to look at it from that person's perspective, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
you like, man, that's a loss, right? But when you start to try to understand and look at it from that person's perspective, as much as you know that person, because this is a person I've been friends with a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay, well, you know that person, so you're like, okay, I get it. They did what they had to do. Cool. Now I don't like the way you did it, but hey, everybody's handled situations differently, right?
Yeah.
So now your priorities shift because now you start to realize, wait a minute, I have other friendships. Maybe I'm not, and I'm just saying this generally, maybe I'm not the friend that I should be. Maybe I could be a better friend. Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
stop being so introspective. Maybe I could show myself a little friendly. Maybe I need to appreciate the friends that I do have that maybe I haven't necessarily appreciated, right?
Yes.
And then so it just kind of changes that. Like that's all the things that I've thought about just from because it was like two friendships, like the
Mm-hmm.
communication stopped, all that stuff. So cool, no explanation, right? So cool. And then so you like, man, and like before I would just be like, I'm shake it off and keep going, right?
Right. Right.
Because I come off as the strong black woman, right? But I got
Right.
feelings, right?
Right.
I got
Right.
feelings, and so let me just say this because I feel like I need to say this. One of the things that I've always done in this grief process that I realize is that I always shake it off, and keep it moving. And I never really dealt with it. I never really dealt with the loss of certain things. For instance, last year,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe earlier this year, I don't remember. I had a best friend who died 15 years ago, and I cried like he just died, like during this pandemic, because I tucked it
Yeah.
and I kept going, right? Because you got to be strong, you got to be this, you got to be that, you got to be that. And so I realized, hold up, I'm not dealing with this stuff. And so all this stuff becomes festered in you, and then you start being ugly to people that really, need you or love
Mm-hmm.
you, and you just because you're angry, because you got grief, because you got
Yeah.
all this stuff built up, and you haven't really dealt with it, right? So I changed everything. So when my student died, I felt it. I let it,
Yeah.
I had to feel it because I just had to, because it was so horrible. But it was the moment of my breaking to say, hey, you need to deal with some stuff. So
Yeah.
guess what I did? Super intentional. You ready? I got me a counselor. Now, 20 years ago, if I would have said that, I would have looked at myself like I was crazy.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
no counselor. Oh, you ain't
Yeah.
because we have this stigma, and I'm gonna just say from two places or two experiences that I've known: church and black
Mm-hmm.
people. We have this stigma.
Yeah.
We don't need a counselor, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you're crazy. You're just getting somebody to help you process the things that you've been through or that you're going through. And we all need that because we really have friends that we do that with, right? But this is just
Right.
a professional
Right.
person that can help you just a little bit more. So when I say super intentional and super personal, those are just some examples because at the end of the day, I had to prioritize my mental health because for a
Which,
long time I neglected it.
and that's a priority that changed for you
Absolutely.
because that wasn't always a priority.
That wasn't
That's
always
good.
that was because Jakeithia, I'm the person that everybody come to. I'm the person that everybody lean on. I'm the person with all the answers, quote unquote. I'm the person that, that's just and I need help too. I'm human just like everybody else, right?
Right,
So,
right.
I just was like, you know what? Let's
That's
get
good.
this. Let's get
That's
this.
good.
So yeah, that's
That's
that's when I
good.
say super intentional and super personal. Because that was one of my priorities. And so my priorities shifted because everything that I mentioned earlier has never happened to me all at one time in a matter of 9 8 9 months, right?
Right.
Um, so
When did you realize that it was time for your priorities to change? Like, at what I know you mentioned, you know, a death from 15 years ago,
mhm,
and then we're just crying about it now. At
mhm.
what point did you know, okay, enough is enough? I need to deal I need to deal with this,
Right. So it was in January because it was another issue. And God is so sovereign.
right?
And it was a serious family issue that came up. And so that right there made me realize, and I say like this, how you have a wound
Mm-hmm.
and you never really, took care of it, you never patched it up, or it's still kind of fresh, and you bump it and it's like, oh my God, like it hurts
Yeah,
again, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It hurts
yeah.
again because you ain't patched it up, you ain't took care of it, you ain't went to the doctor, whatever, right? And so you hit it, and then bam, and then you
Yeah,
start realizing that there's some layers to this, right? But this had to happen so that the whole wound can be gutted out and done with, and all you have left is scar tissue, so that you can help somebody else who's going to go through the same thing that you've gone through. And you just got some scar tissue. Because one thing about the difference between scar tissue and a wound is that I got a scar tissue. Man, you can do this all day long. It ain't working, right? You're
right.
you're an omega, right? You got some scar tissue from that, right? Somebody
Yeah,
do like this, it ain't
yeah.
hurt, it ain't nothing, but it's a
That's right.
it's a
That's right.
symbol of what you represent, right?
Right.
So my scar tissue represents that I'm healed and I done been through this so I could help you out. Right. So that's what happened. And from there I
Okay.
started to realize, wait a minute, I got some stuff I got to deal with, right? And so, it was a nagging thing because it would never go away. Right. So
Yes.
there you go.
So everybody out there who is listening, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, I really, really appreciate it. So right now, something's probably been nagging you. Something's probably been bothering you. It's time to deal with it. It's
Yes.
time to deal with it. It's time for you to deal with it. All right. And then while I'm in the middle of this commercial, make sure that you follow the podcast on Facebook, the Network with Michael Prejean, on Instagram, the underscore network underscore podcast. Tell a friend and then tell that friend to tell a friend. I greatly appreciate it. We are in the middle of the reset, and right now we're talking with Jakeithia Prejean. She is sharing some of her personal things, super personal things, and super intentional things that she has done while she is in the middle of her reset. And I'm sure that somebody listening or watching can relate to some of these things that you have mentioned. So now we're picking up pieces.
Right.
We're picking up the pieces. And you mentioned something that I definitely want to point out. You mentioned that you went to see a professional. You went to
Right.
see a professional. So I'm gonna share something that somebody shared with me years ago. They're your pieces. You can pick them up, but you may not know how to put them back together.
Mhm.
That's where a professional comes in. That's
There you
when
go.
someone who knows more than you
Right.
can come in to help.
Right. Now, when
That's
you
good.
said that, you know what I saw? I saw clay, right?
Hmm.
That's been refined, and let's just say it's a vase, right? And
Right.
it was broken in pieces, right? I'm just using that as a very simple analogy. But think about a child, right? A child could pick up the pieces. They could take the glue and they could put it back together. But I promise you, it
Yeah.
won't look as good as if mama or daddy or an adult glues it back together, because the glue gonna be, promise you, 9 times out of 10 from a child, it's gonna be oozing off the side. You're gonna be able to see that, oh man, yeah, hold up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
adult does it, because of the experiences and because we're more mature and we probably broken all kinds of things before, we know how to put it back together to where you might see the cracks, but you won't see the glue oozing out. And ooh, that was good right there, because that came
That's
right from my
good.
brain.
Listen, and let me add to that. And
Okay,
instead of a vase, it's a person.
there you go.
You try to put yourself back together
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps people are looking at you and wondering, what's going on here?
Right,
Something ain't right.
right.
So pick up yourself, your broken pieces of yourself. And the best advice I've ever been given was given to me by my father. And he told me, don't ever be afraid to ask for help.
It's good.
So that's what I want to say, right? To everybody who is watching or listening. And that applies to you and I as well. We can't be afraid to ask for help. So you are in a reset. If you didn't know, you are in the middle of a reset. So what's happening in this conversation is Jakeithia is so graciously sharing some super personal, some super intentional things that she's dealing with. And now we just kind of lobbing some strategies out there that we're hoping may help somebody. Now, neither one of us are licensed counselors. We're not
We're not.
professional
We're
counselors.
not.
This is for informational purposes only.
Yes.
We're just sharing from our experiences and things that we know.
But we are kind of, we're subtitle counselors, because we're both educators of over 20 years. And let me tell you, we counsel kids
Yes,
every day in some form or fashion. I want to
that's
jump
right.
on, I think I've done good with the super personal, but I want to say something
Hmm.
about the super intentional.
Let's do it.
Um, because again, like I said, my mental health was a priority, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that's being super personal. I kind of did both, but I want to jump on the super intentional, because I think that when we be super intentional, we have to, like me, this is what I have to do. I have to write it down. Top three
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
Top
Hmm.
three, top three things that I need to be super intentional about and prioritize. Because usually we just kind of think about it, right? But we don't really write it down and get us a plan and
Hmm.
a deadline, and not a deadline in pencil, not necessarily in pen. It just depends on what it is, right?
Yeah.
So the super intentional is, I gotta be like, okay, this is what I absolutely need to do, right?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you what helped me to be super intentional when I got COVID.
Okay. Okay.
Because I was knocked down for 2 weeks, right? I wasn't in the hospital, thank God, but I probably was like one breath away from it.
Yeah.
And so when you're knocked down and all you can do is just lay there, you have some scary moments. I knew I wasn't going
Hmm.
to die because I had so much potential, and so many dreams and things that God had given me that I haven't fulfilled yet. And so one thing
Right.
I know about God is that, hey, if you ain't done, you ain't done, right?
That's right.
And He gonna
That's
keep
right.
you here. Now,
That's right.
everybody may not be religious, but I know what I know. I could take this to the bank and cash it, right? So
Amen.
amen. So I he he didn't kick me down because God doesn't give us COVID, uh, but he uses my favorite scripture, all things together for the good of those who love God and called according to his purpose, Romans 8 and 28. So in them
Right.
2 weeks, my whole perspective of life changed
Mm-hmm.
because I say, well, what if I would have died? Or what if I die tomorrow? I didn't do this. I didn't tell this person I love them. I didn't do this. I'm hanging on to this. I'm carrying this. I'm, I'm still mad at this and I'm still can't get over this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you
Mm-hmm.
begin to
Mm-hmm.
see and be grateful. I was just grateful. And so from there I said, hold a minute, I got a reset book that I need to write. That's just I threw that out there because it's
There it
coming
is.
real soon.
Coming soon.
So
Coming
I gotta,
soon.
yeah, and it's not even about being an author. It's not even being about the sales. It's being about just helping people. Um, and I took a break from it um because I'm right in the middle of the reset. So some things I couldn't write about because I had to go through the reset in order to write it. So I started writing again this week. I hadn't written since like right before I got COVID, like 3 months ago. I got COVID in August. So
Okay.
one
I
thing.
had it in July.
Right. So
Yeah.
you live these experiences, right? And so now my priorities change and I'm more intentional, right? So when I was thinking like, hold up a minute, I got a book to write. I've been procrastinating about some things. I've been holding back on some things. Got some self preservation going on, which leads to self sabotage, and I got some
Yeah. Yeah.
perfectionism going on, and a lot of stuff just ran through my brain, and so you start to see things. So now my intentions are, okay, I need to take the what I've gone through and just bring it to another level and help other people in a different way that I had before,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you know, like this a podcast or a book. It's different. This is different than something that I did 10 years ago or even last
Yeah.
year. So my priorities changed, and so everybody's priority is different. Maybe you need to love your wife more. Maybe wife, you need to respect your husband more. You need to spend a little more time with your children.
Yeah.
You need to, your parents are getting older, and then maybe you need to be intentional about hanging out with them once a week or however, whatever it is.
Let me just pause right there. Listen,
Okay.
you are all in where the podcast is going. I
Okay,
just got to
well.
say that because I mean I'm gonna just go ahead and put it out there, but wisdom from the elders is coming also
Oh,
because the
amen.
one thing that we have to do is make time
Yes.
for our elders.
Yes.
We have to make time for our elders because, as you said, the whole world has changed. The whole world has changed. So anyway, I just want to say that you all in the sauce. You all
Oh,
in the
good,
sauce. Keep
good.
going.
I'm the setup for the
Good.
rest of, yeah, that's cool. So, and then part of the reset is rest. Part of the reset is pausing. You know,
Mhm.
part of the reset is taking a break. And I was sharing this with somebody earlier today, and I just feel like I need to share this. Like in the 16 years that I've been teaching, I took a half a year off twice, right?
Mhm.
And it was because I was burnt out. I was weary. Let me do a disclaimer. I love what I do. What I do is so intentional. What
Mhm.
I say to my children at school is so
Mhm.
intentional, but I was
Mhm.
burnt and I
Yeah.
was weary and I was tired. So I took a half a year off twice. And the last time I took a half a year off twice, guess what it made me realize? This your gift, girl, for real. Like you could take a break, but you can't leave this. And so somebody right now might be thinking, I need to leave my job. But this is your gift, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for you to just do the same thing. You still use your gift. My gift is to teach, right? My gift is to educate. But if I'm burnt out and tired, then I got to look at it. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Maybe you at the wrong job. Maybe it's time for
Mm-hmm.
you to get a promotion. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
time for you to still educate, Jakeithia, but now you need to educate in a different form of fashion, right? So that
Yeah.
book is educating because that's my gift. So maybe I just need to shift or reset how I'm using my gift, if that makes sense,
That
right?
makes sense.
That makes
That
sense.
makes
So,
sense.
so I'm a science teacher. So, I'm not gonna always be in the classroom, right? So I'm gonna shift what I do, and my goal is to let's teach some science teachers. Let's help them out. Let's get a
Yeah.
STEM school going. Let's shift what I do, but I'm still in the vein of my gift,
That's
right?
good.
Because
That's
I gotta
good.
grow. Because if I don't grow, I'm gonna be stale. If I don't grow, I'm gonna be burnt out. If I don't grow, I'm gonna be tired. Like we like habit, but then after a while, habit get old too. You know what I'm saying?
Habit gets old too.
Habit
And
gets old.
when you talked about growing, I thought about that tree, the
Mhm.
story of, I think it was the fig tree in the Bible that
Right.
wouldn't produce any fruit.
Uh-huh. And Jesus cursed it
Yep.
because it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do.
That's good. That's
Right?
good. So, hey, that's good. That's good. So, just to reiterate, so we are in a reset. Yeah, I got to keep saying that. So there's a reason that Jakeithia is here with us today, because this conversation is the launching pad to get us through the reset with super intentionality. And I don't even know if that's a word, but
That's
y'all
a
know what
word.
I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna be super intentional about everything that we do from this point forward.
Right.
Some of you, some of us, let me say that, some of us have been broken. Some of us are grieving. Some of us are just now realizing that we're in grief
Right.
because we've had a loss of normalcy, if not a loss of these other things.
Right.
If you're feeling stale, maybe it's time. One, recognize your gift. That's important. That's important, right? But maybe it's time for a shift. Keep going.
Yes. Right. So I think that's important. And I want to say this too is that in the reset, it's a journey. So give yourself some grace, right? Because there are some things that you can do, but then there are some things that it's how I want to say that. It has something to do with somebody else, right? So you don't have
Mm-hmm.
necessarily control over the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
But then there
that's good.
you can only control your part. Or you could no, I don't let me rewind. I don't like to say control it. Control your part. You can only do your part, right? And so
Ah, that's good.
yeah, you can only
That's
do
good.
your part. And one of the things that I live by is I can't expect the apple tree to produce pears, right? And
That's
I
right.
say this very, very lightly because I can't expect a rotten tree to produce good fruit.
That's
So when
right.
I say that is that a lot of times in the reset, we try when it deals with other people, we try to make them something that they're not. And so that's where the disappointments come, right? And so while you're resetting, your perspective is going to change about people and about things. And some things you just not going to have quote unquote control over. And that's where the reset of your mind comes in because it's like, wait a minute, this person is just this person. I can't expect them to be nothing else, right? And so what we tend to do is we just cut them off instead of having healthy conversations with people. Having healthy conversations with people. We have to have healthy conversations with people, right?
Instead of cutting them off.
Instead of cutting them off. Now, some things are just toxic. The
Hmm.
tree rotten, I don't know if I want to keep it in my backyard because eventually, it's going to start rotting the other trees that are around, right? So
Hmm.
you might need to
Hmm.
uproot it and put it somewhere else.
Hmm.
Some things is just super toxic, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? You got a
I know
rotten
what you
apple
mean.
sitting in the basket of other good apples. You're not gonna just leave that rotten apple. You want to throw that one in the trash. I throw the whole basket in the trash because I'm just
Right.
funny like that.
We're
I'm
probably
funny
we're
like that.
probably gonna throw the whole basket away. You're
Right.
right, because it's like
Right. But some
it.
people,
Yeah,
some people they look at an apple, right, and they see a little piece of it, and they might cut that little piece
and
off,
just
and they
cut
say,
it
"That's
off.
me. I'm
Yeah,
throwing the whole thing, and probably the bag it came in and everything. That's just me, though,
that's
right?
it. Because I mean, because it touched
Yeah.
those
Right.
other ones
Right.
that were
Right.
in
Right.
there.
So when I say that, even in that cutting off, you may just need to cut a little bit off and still consume that, or sometimes you need to throw the whole bag away. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm just saying that generally because some things, but we have to reset. We just gonna have to get rid of altogether.
That's
We're gonna
good.
get rid of altogether. Our
That's
mindset,
good.
that whatever. Some people are on a job and they know they're entrepreneur. They know they got all kind of business ideas. But
Hmm.
guess what? You better use your gift because I promise you, your gift is part of that entrepreneurship or part of that business thing, right? And I just think that in the reset, people have don't get be afraid to be creative. Well, I've never seen this before, or nobody's ever did this before. But that's what comes when the normalcy leaves. You start finding ways to create new things, and that's
Hmm.
that's like, man, this is like the most creative time ever. If you look back in the 1920s, the last pandemic, even this pandemic, people have become millionaires in such a short period of time because you have been put with so much pressure that you gotta find a way to survive and to do
Yeah.
something different because
Yeah.
some people got laid off, and so now you got to provide for your family. So that business idea that been sitting there for 10 years, you get it, and bam, it make you $1 million in 2 years. And it's not about the money, because if you're making millions of dollars, that means you're reaching people and you're providing the need of the product. Because I'm not all it's not always about the money, it's about providing the need for people,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
making those resources that you have available to others. So it's, man, this we're in a wonderful time. We're in a trying time, but we're in a wonderful time. It's like a double-edged sword in a sense, right? Because this is a time to thrive. Part of the reset is thriving. Once you're super intentional and super purposeful and get those priorities, I promise you're going to thrive. I promise you're going to thrive. Because when I came, I'm thinking about this, when I came back to the classroom after that last break, man, I have a track record of just being a better teacher, getting awards and rewards, and kids doing
Hmm.
great on state testing, and
Hmm.
building good relationships, and with my students, and helping other teachers out, and I just became a better person. I became a better educator, and all I did was took off 3-4 months. I was able to
Yeah.
do that. So in the reset, use some wisdom too. But then sometimes you may just need to use some faith too. You know what I mean? Right? Because at the
Yes.
time I
Yes.
was able to take off and not have to, you know, be in the dark or no food on my table, right?
Right. Right.
But I
Right.
mean, that's something that you could plan for in a reset. Stop going to
Yeah.
Amazon and buying everything up. Save about, 4 to 6 months of extra income because you should have that anyway, right?
Change some of those
6 to 9,
priorities.
change your priorities, and and bam. And just if you need to take a little mental break, because we've all been in a place where we have never been before, from 1 years old to 100 years old.
That's right.
Nobody has been in a pandemic of this sort ever in that's alive, right?
That's right.
Nobody has been there. So it's a new path, and nobody can really tell you how to maneuver through it but God, you
But
know,
God.
and but God. So you have to just, be intentional. Write down these are my priorities. And let me tell you, once you do that, boom, you may have some other priorities that you need to get in place. And when I say priorities, like, this is first. So when you talk about priorities, this comes first, this comes second, this comes third, this comes fourth. And nothing else should be able to knock the priorities out. All it I mean, sometimes, right? But not always.
Hmm.
Not always. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that's just some things that, man, this journey has been just like so good for me, and I can't wait because I'm not quite I'm in the middle too.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle
that's
too,
good.
but I was talking to my counselor last week. She was like, "Sounds like you're ready to really do something different." I was like, "Yeah, girl, I'm glad you caught it." Right? Like, yeah, you sometimes you just get tired of the tired of the tired. And
That's
it's
good.
just it's sometimes it's little adjustments, Michael, little resets, and sometimes it's a major reset. But it's up to you, because you know what you need. If you really sit down and think about it, you know what you need. I can't tell you what you need to reset on. I could kind of give you an idea if I know you, but you know more than anything. Because the reset really is internal first.
Yeah,
It's internal. It's the mindset. It's the letting go. It's the forgiveness. It's the, moving forward. It's the realization. It's the perspective. If it's dealing with it, it's all internal. And when the internal is right, then out is right. You eat burgers and fries every day. Everybody gonna look at you and see that that's what you do, right? But if you
that's
eat
right.
healthy and you exercise and you got a nice diet, then they're gonna look at you and be like, oh, okay, that person's fit. That person must go to the gym, right? So whatever's on the inside, you're gonna see it on the outside. So it could be anything. And you just have to be two things, like I said, super personal and super intentional. And let me tell you this, everybody is not gonna like your reset.
Say that one more time because.
Everybody is not going to like or accept your reset. And if you're anything like me, I'm not I'm not what I would call a people pleaser, because I really, but I tend to put people before me at times. And I don't know if that's part of the people
Hmm.
pleasing, but I tend to
Hmm.
neglect Jakeithia at times for somebody else or
Okay.
something else, right? And
Hmm.
so if I do the reset, if I'm resetting, everybody not gonna like it. But
That's
it's
good.
okay because it's for you.
That's good. That's good. Let me do a recap, and then I'm gonna throw one last thing at you, and then
Okay.
we're gonna wrap up. So we are in a reset, people, and only you know what you need. You know what you need better than anybody else. It is super personal and it's super intentional. All right. So your priorities have to change in this reset. All right. So there's some things that you haven't been dealing with. So don't just shake them off and keep moving. Make sure that you deal with these things. And as your priorities change, your mindset and your perspectives are also going to change. All right. Put the first things first. Make sure that you write it down. Make sure that you give yourself grace. And then also make sure that you rest and pause when needed. And stir your gift up. Stir your gift up. Super important things. We're in a reset. Okay, Jakeithia. One thing, if you had to share with those who are listening or watching, one thing that they need to read in the next 90 days, what is it?
You always do that to me. In the next 90 days, they need to read my book. My book will be out within the next 90 days. No, I'm just kidding. This is what I feel like they need to read. They need to
Mm-hmm.
read a book that deals directly with the area that they need to reset.
Okay.
So I can't say anything intentional or specific. So I could give an example, right? If
Okay.
you need a reset in your finances, then go find a book that talks about finances to
That's
help
good.
you to prioritize and get those things in order, right? If you need to reset your marriage, then go get a book that's going to help you reset your marriage. If you need to reset your career, go get a book that's going to help you reset your career. If you need to reset your relationship with God, then pick up that Bible because it's right there, right? If you need to reset your mind, then find a book, and you got to be careful with that talks about, the mind, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
need to, whatever area that you need to reset, and go look at the Amazon reviews or ask a friend because it's like it's always that book for that particular area, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always
Mm-hmm.
like that's the book for this. This is
Yeah.
the book for that, right? And people know it and you see it. And so that's what you need to read in the next 90 days because it'll help you navigate and reset where you're going.
Okay. One thing that people need to listen to in the next 30 days.
Your thoughts.
Ooh, that's good. That's
Your
good.
thoughts. Listen to your thoughts. Every thought that comes through, listen to it. And guess what you do? Write it down and then go look at it and then you'll see what you've been thinking. Because I promise you, that's your first reset.
That's
If you
good.
look at it spiritually in the Bible, Jesus talks about the mind. God talks about the mind. Let this
Mm-hmm.
mind be in you,
Mm-hmm.
so Christ Jesus. Romans chapter 12 is always about the mind. If you
Yeah,
look in the natural world, people talk about thoughts and mindsets.
that's right. That's
So
right.
it's across the board. So
Yeah.
listen to your thoughts. Listen to your
I,
thoughts.
I've always said, because you talked about these are things you find spiritually, these are things you find naturally. I've always said that when you combine the spiritual and the natural, you get the practical.
Absolutely. It
All
has
right.
to be practical. You
Yeah.
got to be practical. Practical.
All right. One thing that we need to say within the next 5 days, or say to someone, either or.
I love you.
Okay. Good. Cousin, this is the reset.
This is the
This is
reset.
the we're moving in. We're moving into the second part of the reset. Some of us will be moving out of the reset, but make sure that you are doing it with super intentionality. Make sure you're writing stuff down. Make sure you're writing stuff down. First things first. First things first. Make sure that those priorities are changing. They're going to change. Your priorities are going to change. Make sure you write them down. Your perspective's going to change. Your mindset's going to change. Make sure that you use your gift. Listen, everybody, this is the network. This is our attempt at creating a modern podcast version of the Negro Motorist Green Book. With each interview, we're building a network of talented people that you can reach out and touch. Every episode is designed with 4 things in mind. We want to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially as you live in and travel through America. Listen, subscribe to the network because you never know. You might need it. Jakeithia, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time today.
Thank you.